Alright, hey YouTube, it's another day of the week where I'm driving to work, and today I wanted to talk about this thing that I used to do when I was younger, called Uno card hockey. This is a video that I've kind of wanted to make for a while, mostly because I feel like it's a topic that kind of describes who I am in a way. A second. So what I would do essentially when I was younger, you know how like people play with like action figures and stuff like that? Well, maybe not anymore these days, but back in the day I used to play with Uno cards as action figures, and I would like write names on them. And the reason why I would use Uno cards is because they all had numbers on them, and I would kind of change the numbers sometimes with like a Sharpie and write the names on them with a Sharpie. But they would essentially all be hockey players, and I would create all these teams and play all these different hockey games with them. And this all kind of started back, I want to say, when I was probably around like 5 years old. And I think it all started with this deck of playing cards, and the playing cards were like these Christmas playing cards, and it was, instead of the 4 suits of diamonds, clubs, hearts, and spades, it was like elves, Christmas trees, snowmen, and reindeer. And so I would kind of like sort these kind of playing cards into their respective teams, and each number was like a different character. And I think this kind of was like the start of my whole like creating characters kind of phase in life that hasn't really gone away. And I remember specifically liking the 4 of elves. I don't know why, I just really liked the 4 of elves back then. And so that was like my favorite card. And I guess the elf would be like a spade, so like the 4 of spades. But I guess that's just kind of a memory of how I kind of got into Uno card playing. Not really the way you normally play Uno cards, but Uno card hockey. And so I would have these teams, and I think, I don't remember how many were on each team, but I think I used to get multiple like decks of Uno cards, so that there were close to about 20 on each team. And I had a lot of teams because there was different styles of like Uno cards. There was like the original style, and they had these like thick blocky numbers, and then there was like this other style that was a little bit more modern for the time. So there were 2 different styles, and there were 4 colors in each deck of Uno cards. So you'd have your yellow, your red, your green, and your blue. And then on top of that, so the old style had 4, the new style had 4, so that's 8 teams. And then on top of that, I had different color Sharpie markers that I would use. So there was the silver Sharpie, and I would color in like a team like color that was it didn't have to be like completely silver or black, but I'd use a black or silver Sharpie marker to kind of have like this black and this silver team as well. So thinking about it, I probably had at least 10 teams, and tried to have around 20 players per team. And so if you do the math, I want to say that's like 200 different cards, 10 times 20. So it was a lot of cards and a lot of names. And so this kind of jump started my whole character creation thing. I had about 200 names. And then once I had like the Uno cards, how I'd play actually is I'd have like a marble, and that would be the puck. And then back in the day, we had like all these like Beanie Babies. So the Beanie Babies, instead of using like Beanie Babies as action figures, I used the Uno cards as action figures, and the Beanie Babies were like the boards and the net of the hockey ring. So like you'd have like one Beanie Baby as the net, and then all the other Beanie Babies would go around and form the boards, and then even like the benches and stuff like that. So I would like kind of like design my own rinks all the time with the Beanie Babies, and it was kind of this. You just dump all the Beanie Babies out, you take your cards out, you get the marble, you play a game of hockey, and then you just clean it up afterwards. And I would use like loose leaf paper, and I was probably like, I think I started when I was like 5 years old. So I would get like loose leaf paper, and I would write down all the names of all the players on each team, and keep these like roster sheets. And then like keep track of like, who scored goals and all the stats. And so I guess that's just kind of like the kind of kid that I was, where I would record. I liked recording especially the numbers and the positions, and the names were my favorite things to do. But I would also do like goals, and I don't think I did like assists or anything like that, but just like those kinds of things. And based on that information, I was like, okay, so these are like the best players, and so I would start like ranking the players and like associating the numbers with like, this player is really good and this player maybe he's not that good, and if I get a new pack of Uno cards, I'll like cut him from the roster kind of thing. So that's kind of like how I created like all my early characters. And the Uno card hockey slowly kind of evolved into, once I started being able to play video games, the NHL games came out. My first NHL game was NHL 98. And I think NHL 98 also helped me I got a lot of inspiration for character names from like, just actual hockey players, or I would get them from like movies or stuff like that. Like I remember I really liked Tommy Pickles from the Rugrats, so I had a character named Tommy. And there's just like tons of characters, over 200 of them. And some of them are just kind of like made up words, like their last names are just like me trying to not copyright. Like for some reason I distinctly remember having this like concept of what copywriting was. And so like I would have like last names, and I'd be like slightly tweak them a little bit just so they weren't like the same, so I could make them my own. But anyway, it was about until 2003, NHL 2003, that's when I actually started putting these characters on actual hockey teams. And I remember actually in NHL 2003 there were only 2 teams you could make. So I had like 10 teams over the years, and I had to find 2 all-star teams to really battle it head to head, because that's all you could really do back then. So I think this is probably when I started keeping track of like goals and stuff, and like just kind of stats that would let me kind of narrow down the roster a little bit more. So I would import the 2 teams into that game, and then I remember this was like before the times where I could get every single video game, because I didn't really have a lot of like money to just kind of like go out and buy stuff as a kid. So I think the next NHL game after 2003 was 2006, and this was the NHL game that I probably played the most. Probably because you couldn't make more than 2 teams, and they actually had a lot more character creation and just team creation in general. And I probably made like dozens of teams, like more than like 20 teams in these games. And I remember like every year I would want to get the next NHL game, just to remake all the teams again. So it'd kind of be like each year was a season. I remember I went from like probably NHL 2006 to like maybe NHL 2013. So like through high school, I would be like recreating these characters every year in these games. And, it might take like over an hour to create like a team, because I would create each individual character, and there's 20 characters per, thing. I don't know how long it actually took. Definitely took like hours of my life, just creating these kinds of characters. and trying to remember over the years like what their faces looked like what changed in the games, and if the face features I could like recreate them. So like I would have like distinct images of these characters' faces in my head after like throughout the years, and there was definitely like, you know, a good amount that like stayed throughout the years, and a good amount that would you know, new ones that would come. And then I remember, I forget which year it was, but there was a year where they started introducing, allowing you to make like girl characters. So then I started to create this whole nother list for girl characters. And, you know, I kind of wanted to like balance it out. So I think like I started just, I wasn't even just like hockey games at this point. Like I would, any kind of video game that I would play, it would be like me putting in like one of these characters to sort of, I guess role play as, maybe you could say. Like I would just kind of like be like, okay, I'm naming this character in this game this character from my made up thing, and that would be like I guess, you know, building more onto that character before I started even like learning about like writing characters or you know, creating characters for like role-playing games. This was kind of like the system I used. And I don't know, it was pretty, I think it's a pretty kind of like unique thing. I don't think that like a lot of other people had that kind of experience with Uno cards and creating characters. Maybe they have, and you know, this is just like, you know, we're two peas in a pod kind of thing. But yeah, that's kind of just what I wanted to talk about this morning. I've been kind of wanting to talk about it for a bit, but you know, just decided to do it today on my drive this morning, just because driving is a good time to, I guess, record myself ranting. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Have a good one.